This is Between the Lines. Today, we dissect the road less traveled.
Hello, we are again with the Road Less Traveled, chapter 28, Love is Discipline. And we have been talking about love and how self-discipline is love in action. And the doctor starts the very first part of the chapter talking about a couple of artists, like they were in a marriage for 4 years approximately, and they were constantly or almost every day as a couple screaming, breaking dishes, and fighting all the time. So they decided to start therapy, and after some time they realized that they had to be more disciplined or a little bit more order in their relationship. And that is when they thought that that would take the passion out of the relationship. So they quit therapy. And the doctor goes to mention after that he talked to several colleagues, and they told them they had also attempted to treat the very same couple, and they found out that the same thing. After several years, they would still continue fighting and screaming, and nothing really changed. They had also had, in the meantime, fidelity, time of separation, then coming back, and all this they call passion. But actually, passion doesn't have to be, as we already talked about, passion doesn't have to be necessarily disordered or chaotic. And that is something I'm going a little bit sideways here, because that is something that sometimes, and I've talked about this in another episode some time ago, without even remembering this chapter, about this chapter, about the torture artist, right? The person that's feels that they have to be in certain chaos, and their life has to be chaotic in order to be a creative. And that is not exactly right. I mean, you can be a great artist and have a disordered life, and you can be a great artist and have a very orderly life. So one thing doesn't really have to collide with the other part, we can say. Anyways, so coming back to this, right? The doctor says that by taking passion as an equal to chaos, they weren't really growing. And we are mentioning everything here in order for us to grow as individuals, and also as a couple in different relationships, not only couples or marriages. So they weren't really growing, and their chaos was unproductive in the end, because they kept being all the time the same patterns once and again. And so passion, if we would like to put it as a feeling, it can be of depth, or it can be profound, or it can be shallow, as any other feeling that we could have. So here the differences are those feelings or those behaviors part of are there slaves here, mentioned the doctor. We are slaves of them, or we are their master? What's the relationship that we have with them? And remember, this was written 50 years ago, and so the doctor mentions slavery. In this sense, we should be the masters or the slave owners of our feelings, and manage them and lead them towards our growth. Or if we leave them be and really don't put the limits, the boundaries, don't work on them, don't nurture them, don't feed them in certain ways, and take care of them lovingly, we can get also these undisciplined feelings, right? And that is when we become the slaves instead of there being our slaves, or our slaves is the word he uses here. So yes, we should be able to manage those feelings, whether it's passion, love, or however you want to say those kind of things, or behavior sometimes. But you have to be the one leading them instead of you being led by them. So that is when, as we have been talking before a lot, that is when we have to put the effort on understanding when not to do certain activities or tasks, or perform self-reflection, or nurturing a specific feeling in our life, when to do certain actions to foster that for growth, or when we have to refrain those feelings, and that kind of thing. And feelings are energy because they are action, or they are things that are moving within us, and we have limited time. During the day we only have our 24 hours to manage that time, and to be able to decide where to assign our energy in order for us to grow or to get to our goals. So that is why our capacity for love is generally limited, and we have to decide who we are going to love and who we are not going to. And that is really important for us to understand, because the doctor says even if we have the attention of many people in our lives, we will, most of us humans, we will only have certain capacity to love a few of them, not everyone. I mean, fully love them, as we have been talking, nurturing them, and also being able to decide who's capable also of reciprocity with us, to reciprocate our feeling of love or our love for them, and giving back. Because he mentions here that you may have noticed that we have been talking about that a lot, that it's an exercise in futility to pretend that anyone can love us back, right? So you have to decide and consciously reflect on that, and pay attention, and decide who or who not to love. And he goes back into a topic that we mentioned some chapters ago, which is free love. And he says that actually free love, he mentions a person, he quotes a theologian called Joseph Fletcher, who says that free love is an ideal, that it can be achieved, but really very few people can do that, because we have like a certain capacity for love. It came to mind during this reading that some of these figures that we could say that achieved this free love through the ages are, for example, historical or religious figures. Could be, I don't know, Gandhi, Mandela, Jesus, or any other religion person that you have been told about, for example, that were able to extend the love more than their few people, right? Or the few people in their family, for example. Maybe that could be an example of extended love and free love. I don't know, he doesn't really mention that, but for the context of this these words, these paragraphs, that is what it came to mind. If you read the book and you have other ideas, please comment about that. And again, it is difficult to achieve that kind of free love because it's difficult for everyone, especially now in our busy days and our busy lives nowadays. I think we have limited capacity, and maybe our capacity is even more limited nowadays than in ancient times. I don't really know. I also thought about, and I know some cases, for example, of people that have been married with several women, not from a particular religion that you may see, but yes, too. But I'm thinking about people that were from no religion and they were married to different women at the same time. But I didn't consider, I thought about that, but I didn't consider that free love, as we mentioned here, an extension and growth and everything, because the people I knew weren't really, from my perspective, nurturing, for example, their children. They were like scattered around the places and they weren't really loving with their partners. So I didn't consider that kind of, we could say, like multiple marriages at the same time. I didn't consider that, according to my experience and the ones I've seen, as discipline or as free love for the cases that we are talking here. But there might be that, I don't know. And a good thing, and it's something that I really like that the doctor mentions here, that you might have that idea too so far, is that he says, I know, but now at the end of the chapter, many people must be tired of me speaking about discipline. And I must confess, I have been sometimes. Yes, discipline. Okay, I understand that. Please continue. But I also saw that it is important for us to be reminded of, and remember, these are short chapters that mention discipline. And he says, you might think that remember this, again, this book was written 50 years ago. He said, you may think that I am a Calvinist of ideas. You may associate my ideas as a Calvinist, or as it was labeled this time, a neo-Puritanism. But he says, I really don't care, because I think that these ideas of discipline are really important in no matter how you decide to go with that. You can go discipline or undisciplined. If you go undisciplined, you will get to all those bad examples we were talking about that are not really love, etc. And the only way he sees into love, into genuine love, is discipline. But I found that funny because yes, at this time of this chapter 28, we are like almost fed up with the word discipline, right? But again, I think it's necessary to remind of it. And he also says that he doesn't care, because he knows that every time you become you grow with love, and the more you love, the more you grow. And genuine love really is self-replenishing. So the more you have, the more you give, and the more you accumulate. It's like a snowball of love. And he says, so I'm kind of selfish, because if I love somebody else, then if I give love, I know I will get more. And that makes me a joy freak, says the doctor. So I thought that was really funny at this time. So that was this chapter. Interesting, I think. And I believe he will continue talking about discipline, so we will do so. I hope you're not that tired of that word yet, because I think in general, what we have been building so far, it's really interesting, at least from my perspective. And I want to know yours if you want to. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate you being here and commenting or liking or however you feel that you can contribute to love, not only for the channel but for the world. So thank you so much for being here, and see you next week. Bye bye.
Stay tuned for Ulua's next episode.